What's good, guys? Welcome back to Behind the Dugouts. And not quite the start to the season that we wanted, was it? Definitely didn't go in with a bang, didn't secure the 3 points. It was, in the end, a nil-nil, a goalless draw between Chelsea and Crystal Palace. And yeah, not what we all wanted, not what we all expected, especially from the back end of the Club World Cup. Even in pre season, we were looking sharp, and it just didn't come together today. And yes, of course, it's the first game of the season, so I'm not going to sit here and lose my head, throw my toys out of the cot because it is the first game. I expect the team to improve, and we will definitely improve. We've seen what they can do, what they can produce. So it's just one of those blips in the road. Crystal Palace, again, you can't take them lightly. They are a good side. Beat Man City in the FA Cup, beat Liverpool in the Community Shield recently. They are a good side. So, yeah, I'm not going to lose my head over it, but we are going to take a look at the game, delve into it a bit deeper, what went right, what went wrong, and just the overall consensus of the team performance on the day. But before we take a look at Chelsea, I have to give props to Crystal Palace. I thought everything down to their game plan today was spot on. I thought the way that tactically Glasner got them set up on how to nullify the midfield, because that's what they've done today. They completely congested and nullified anything creative in that midfield whatsoever. Cole Palmer, again, we're going to dip more into players later into the video, but he was one of those players that was sort of nullified the most in that midfield area. And how they were doing it is they were working in banks of three and defending in twos and threes off the ball. So when it reached the midfield area, there was always 2 to 3 players around one of our players on the ball. When our wide players were getting in the 1v1 positions, there would always be a second player backing their fullbacks up to stop and not let the wingers get isolated with their fullbacks. Defensively, they were superb and they created chances in attack. One of the things that, just like us, Crystal Palace did lack in today was their finishing. They had a few opportunities to score, which they didn't take. Obviously, Eze did score the free kick, but due to Gurhi's infringement, it wasn't to the fact of the foul, because yes, he pushed Caicedo out the way, but that wasn't the reason why the goal was disallowed. It was disallowed because the opposition player can't be within a meter of the defensive wall. So when he pushed Caicedo and got closer to the wall and infringed on that 1 meter gap, that was the reason the goal was disallowed. So if he didn't get too close to the wall, that goal would have stand. Again, I think Sanchez probably could have done a bit better. How much of his vision was negated because the players came across his line of sight, it's tough to tell without being in his eyes and seeing what he's seeing. But the ball was struck with some venom right at him. It looked like he did, get a little bit of a hand to it, but it still went through his hand. So we praise him for his shot stopping. In that instance, I would have expected him to save it, though he didn't. We got lucky and it was disallowed due to an infringement. So yeah, on Palace's side, their finishing was a little bit lackluster, where they had some chances to take the game, but defensively and as a unit, they were superb and they got it tactically right in this game to nullify the midfield completely, because that's how we tick. So I have to give massive props to Crystal Palace. They played their game. They done really well, and we can't. Some fans are looking at it going, "Oh, they're a weak team. We should have beat them," but it's not the case. But Crystal Palace are a strong team, and they've done well against the bigger sides. So I expected it to be a tough game. I did think Chelsea were going to prove too much for them, especially in my preview. What I've seen in the Club World Cup, what I saw in pre-season, the fact that we stayed as sharp as we were during the Club World Cup, I didn't think we would have a problem that we did today. Like today, the sharpness was off completely. No player really on the pitch looked sharp, which is weird because a week ago when we played AC Milan, we looked on it and we looked sharp as anything. So it was a little bit of a weird one, but we're going to dive into my thoughts on the Chelsea's performance. Starting lineup, pretty much got it spot on, bar the Tosin injury. Now, he wasn't injured at the time of me recording, so if he wasn't, I probably would have got the lineup spot on. Acheampong come in to replace him. So starting from the back, we had Sanchez in goal, as expected. Reece James right back, Trevor Chalobah, Josh Acheampong with Cucurella as left back. The two midfield pivot was Enzo and Caicedo. The three in front, just in front of them, was Pedro Neto, Cole Palmer, and Jamie Gittens. and up top was João Pedro. So a strong lineup, and what I expected us to go with in this fixture. But it just didn't go to plan. In terms of defensively, I thought we did well on the most part. I thought Josh Achimpong did well for what he needed to do playing again. He's not a centre back, he's a right back. He prefers to play on the wider side, but he's filled in that role. He's got the good height, which against a striker like Mateta was going to be quite vital. Trevor Chalobah not the best in the air, so to bring in, a young defender, 6'4", would challenge Mateta in the air. And on the most part, I thought he controlled him throughout that game. There were a few moments where Mateta bullied him a little bit. He got a shot away, one of them against Sanchez, and there were a few passing errors that he made in the game. But on the whole, I thought he had quite a good performance for a 19-year-old coming in a high pressured game, wanting to do well off the back of what has been a very good summer for us. I thought he did really well, and I have seen some what I think is quite some unnecessary stick that he's been given. But of course, we're all subject to our own opinions, and that's how they may have seen the game. But I thought it was quite unnecessary, and I didn't think he had a bad game. I thought he was pretty good. There are a few details in not just him, but in the back line in general, the two centre backs that I think we were missing, which I'll get into a little bit later in the video. The right and left back, Cucurella, I thought was okay. He was pretty good doing his normal role of inverting. He was trying to get on the ball, but because the midfield was so congested, it was so tough for any player in that midfield area to get on the ball at all. And if they were hounded within seconds by two or three players. And how Palace were shifting every time we were moving the ball from left to right, the two players would move over, have a third one fill in from the side, and they were just moving across like this the whole time in the game. So there was always two or three players around the ball, stopping us from making any progressive passes into the middle of the field, which was the cause of why Moises Caicedo, Enzo, and Palmer, and I'm going to group those three players together, couldn't really get on the ball in midfield and couldn't really do anything, especially Palmer. I thought this was one of his, quieter games. We call him Cold Palmer today. He was lukewarm. There was just no real instant where he could get control of the middle of the park and dictate play at all. They really nullified that midfield with congesting it, blocking any passes through the lines. And I think that's one of the big things that we missed from Levi Colwill today. Trevor Chalobah and Josh Achimpong are good at carrying the ball. I mean, Josh did it quite a few times where he carried it past the striker into midfield and, broke into the midfield park and pinged a few passes to the left and the right from there. But what they don't do very well, and they did try it in the game, but it didn't come off, was trying to play through the lines with line breaking passes, which is something Levi Colwill does really, really well. He can ping a ball straight through the line into the feet of Cole Palmer, into the feet of Enzo or Caicedo without it getting blocked or stopped. But today, there was none of it. They tried, and when they did try, it was always going to the opposition player. And that was a big problem because it's something that I think we desperately did need in this game today, was a defender. Because we couldn't play it into the midfield and we couldn't get the midfield ticking, we needed a defender that was able to play these line breaking passes to potentially pick up those midfielders in those pockets of spaces. And it just didn't happen, which caused our build up play from the back to be incredibly slow, which allowed unnecessary pressure on the back line, unnecessary pressure onto the midfield. But again, it was more down to the tactical approach that Crystal Palace made and the fact that the two centre backs that we had in the game today, who, apart from this particular area, I thought were okay. Again, defensively, we've not conceded, we've kept a clean sheet. So we've done what we've needed to do in that area. But in order to aid in the attacking half and to get the team ticking and get the team moving a little bit quicker, we needed those line breaking passes, and neither one of Josh or Trevor were able to produce that in this game, which is definitely something Maresca and the players are going to have to look at going forward if the club are not going to go out and buy a centre-back, which from showing today, I think we may need to potentially dip into the market. Obviously, Fofana was on the bench. We don't know what level and how long he's going to be available for. Badiashile is also one of those players that could play those line-breaking passes, not with the same quality, but it would still be something rather than nothing. But again, he seems to be picking up injuries quite often of late. So for me personally, I think it's something that the club needs to take a look at before the transfer window shuts, I know Maresca, he seems to be crying out for another defender. So if that's what he wants, for me, go out and get it, personally. Um, the wide players, Pedro Neto, lively, tried to make things happen. Again, always was doubled up on whichever side we were going at. They were always putting two players, so there was no real time. The wingers were ever isolated with the fullbacks. The odd occasion they were, but other than that, not as much as Maresca would have wanted, and not as much as the two wide players would have wanted. Gittins, a bit underwhelming, but again, debut in the Premier League. He's got to adapt to the physicalness, because that's one thing Crystal Palace did very well, is they were very physical, and a lot of players couldn't match that. And when you're losing the physical battle, when you're losing the second balls, you're setting yourself up to fail, and you are going to set yourself up to struggle more than you need to. And I thought Gittins really struggled physically. He was trying a few things, but again, he's not being isolated with the fullback, so he's not able to take him on 1v1, because when he's beating that player, there's another player to cover. So his game was sort of nullified in that sense. João Pedro, because Palace were playing a sort of low block, João Pedro, in theory, is the right striker for this, because A, he's technically very good in tight, close, controlled spaces, and he can link up the play really well. So he can link up with the wingers, he can link up with Cole Palmer. He's got good 1-2 movement in and around. He can peel off in behind to get those little intricate passes in. However, today, we weren't able to do that because the line between the defence and the midfield was so tight. There was no space for João Pedro or Cole Palmer in this instance to operate, to link up at all. I don't think there was any point where Cole Palmer or João Pedro were able to link up in this fixture. And if they did, it was sort of snuffed out straight away and we lost the ball. So he was quite ineffective in that sense. But in terms of the decision to use him in a low block team, he is the right type of striker, because Liam Delap, though when he came on, which we'll get into the subs in a second, he did offer more than João Pedro did in this game. But in terms of tactically, when you approach this game against a team that is going to play in a low block, João Pedro would be the right striker to use in this situation. He was just ineffective in this game. And Guehi definitely marshalled him out of the game for the most part until he, come off the pitch. Substitution-wise, substitutes that come on, expected to come on. I like the fact that Maresca made an early substitution. Esteval come on for Gittins, who, when he did come on, he injected something different. He injected a bit of pace. He injected a bit of magic, something different that we didn't have on the pitch. And one of the question marks we had with Esteval, obviously being his young age, well, the fact that he looks so small. How is he going to cope with the physicalness? For me, I don't see a problem. There was one instant where he picked the ball up on the right-hand side and he had 3 Crystal Palace players around him, centre-back, a right-back and a midfielder, and he ran through all of them and come out with the ball. Another instance, he got the ball just on the edge of the box and got through Mark Guehi and Tyreek Mitchell down on the right-hand side to get that cross in that Pedro Neto needed a few more inches on his height to get the header in the back of the net. So physically, I think he's going to be fine. And you can see when he comes on, he just injected something different into that forward line, something more explosive, something a little bit more, again, the magic, that what you want from these, not expensive players, but these type of players that have a bit of flair, that have a bit of something different. And he did that. And I thought his little cameo that he come on, he got about, 40 minutes, 40 to 35 minutes on the pitch. He did really, really well. And he could have produced a few goals. He did have that one chance on the edge of the box, which he did scuff over. Wasn't quite set when he took the shot, but he was getting in the right positions to do that. You also had the subs of Liam Delap, who, as I mentioned, come on, done really well. He did offer more than João Pedro. He was bullying them. He had, probably the best chance out of the forward line in scoring a goal with that strike that opened up from his touch just on the right side of the box. It was a good strike, but down the middle, expect Dean Henderson to make those saves. But it was good that he was getting in those positions, because João Pedro wasn't getting in those positions in this game. And then you had the likes of Andre Santos come on for Enzo, who I also thought had a bit of a poor game. He didn't look too good in the AC Milan game. He's just one of those players that doesn't look so sharp. Maybe the break has affected him more than the others. He just didn't look on it today, but I'm not going to say too much on that because I know what Enzo can produce. I know what he's done at the back end of the season, and I know what he's done in the Club World Cup. So I expect him to get back to that form and pick up that sharpness again by 6, 7 games into the league. We'll see the best of him again. But today, little bit shaky. Andre Santos come on, he done better. He produced more. He got into a very, very good scoring position and just fluffed it over the bar. I mean, lean back too much, strike it too hard. At that point, you've either got to hit the target or look, get your head up. And there was an on running Cole Palmer into the edge of the box, which he could have played in to get a more easier shot on goal, but he didn't. And again, that will come playing together a bit more confidence. But you would expect in those sort of areas and these type of quality players to at least hit the target. So a little bit of a negative on that side, but in terms of his overall performance, I thought he did well. Same with Caicedo. I thought he did really, really well. Again, Engine just in terms of progressing the ball today because of how congested the midfield was. He couldn't really play that game of breaking up play early and progressing the ball really quickly because every time we tried to get the ball in midfield, they really just boxed it out and won the ball back. And their counter attacks were so rapid. Players had to be very aware that the moment they lost it, they had to be tracking back and tracking their players. And they did it really well today. I said we didn't concede, so defensively, I think we were quite astute. Just in the attacking front, yeah, we were just a bit lackluster, and we left a lot wanting. So, look, it's not the end of the world. A point against a good Crystal Palace side is not the end of the world. It's the first game. We are only going to improve after this. It's not going to get much worse in this sense, but there are a few things that definitely we need to take note of. One of them, we need to replace Levi Colwill's line breaking passes. We need someone to be able to do that. Tosin does try them, but again, he's injured. We don't know how long he's going to be injured for. So if he's going to be out for an extended period of time, we've got to bring someone in to be able to do that when we come up against teams like this that are not giving us any time and not allowing us to play in the midfield. We need someone that can break those lines, break those passes into the half spaces for players to turn and produce something. Another thing is our sharpness. We just need to be sharper. We need to be fitter. So that will only come with playing more games. So as I said, I expect it 6, 7 games in for us to be back to what we saw in the Club World Cup and especially in that game against PSG. I don't think tactically we really got anything wrong. We played our game. We kept majority of the possession. We got quite a lot of shots, just not on target. I think we had 19 shots in total in the game, but only 4 on target. And I think it took up until like the 80th minute for us to get 2 of those. So, yeah, there's definitely areas for improvement. But as I said, first game of the season, it's not the end of the world. We move, we'll come back stronger. We've got West Ham on Friday night, I believe it is. And I expect us to be better and I expect us to have a more controlled and dominant performance against West Ham sort of next weekend. But that's all from me, guys. I'd love to get your thoughts on the game. How do you feel the game went? Is there any players that stood out for you? Any players that you thought really had a poor game? Just drop a comment below. I'd love to get your thoughts on this. But for now, that's all from me. And if you are enjoying this content, please hit that like button. Drop a comment. Feedback's always greatly appreciated. But for now, take care of yourselves and I will catch you in the next one.